Most people imagine that for highly intelligent individuals, having a high IQ is like possessing a superpower in a movie. They picture complex codes appearing in the air, or someone who always has the perfect answer ready. However, from a psychological perspective, the reality for these people is often much quieter, more complex, and at times, far more isolating. High intelligence is not merely a gift one receives, it represents a structural difference in how a brain processes the world. Contrary to popular belief, a brilliant brain does not necessarily have more neurons. Recent neuroscientific research suggests that highly intelligent brains actually have fewer neural connections, but these connections are incredibly efficient and targeted. Such individuals do not just have a large library of information, they possess a high-speed filing system that builds bridges between completely unrelated concepts in a split second.
But this efficiency comes with a psychological cost that the famous psychologist Kazimierz Dabrowski identified as overexcitability. Those who belong to this group are often familiar with the feeling that the world is simply too much. Because of heightened brain activity and neuronal sensitivities, their physical and emotional responses to sensory input are intensified. For them, sounds are louder, colors are sharper, and emotions run deeper than they do for the average person. These people are not just smart, they are vividly awake.
This heightened sensitivity is the foundational piece of their psychological puzzle. They are not just thinking, they are deeply processing every stimulus they encounter. This intensity often places them in a unique position, a state of self-imposed isolation driven by a constant restless search for meaning. They are broadcasting on a frequency that very few others are tuned into. For these individuals, life is rarely experienced at a moderate pace. Their internal world is defined by what psychologists call overexcitabilities, a heightened physiological and emotional response to the environment. Their nervous system operates like a radio with the volume knob turned all the way to the maximum. They pick up on frequencies, details, and nuances that others completely miss.
This intensity is not just mental, it is deeply physical. A scratchy clothing tag, a flickering light, or a specific scent can become an overwhelming distraction for someone with this level of sensitivity. This is why highly intelligent people are often seen as difficult or picky, when in reality, their brains are simply receiving more data per second than they can easily filter out. However, the greatest paradox of this mind lies in the paralysis of choice. The same brain that can analyze complex systems or cosmic patterns might find itself completely frozen when faced with a simple restaurant menu. This happens because they aren't just choosing a meal, they are deeply processing every variable. They are subconsciously evaluating the nutritional value, the source of the ingredients, and the probability of future regret after the first bite.
For the highly intelligent, no decision is ever truly small because their minds are biologically incapable of ignoring the details. They don't just see a problem, they see a web of consequences. And while this depth is their greatest strength, it is also the source of a constant, invisible exhaustion that follows them throughout their daily lives.
For a highly intelligent individual, a crowded room can often feel like the loneliest place on Earth. While others are comfortably engaged in small talk about the weather or the latest celebrity gossip, these people are often scanning the room for deeper patterns. They find themselves subconsciously asking existential questions or analyzing the social dynamics of the group, which makes everyday conversation feel exhausting and superficial.
This internal drive for meaning over noise creates a significant psychological gap. It is not that they are necessarily antisocial. Rather, they find more satisfaction in processing their own complex thoughts than in participating in shallow interactions. Research suggests that highly intelligent people often crave quiet thinking time because their prefrontal cortex needs space to reflect and plan without distraction.
However, this intellectual depth brings a unique set of challenges to their personal relationships. These individuals often fall into the trap of analyzing love instead of simply feeling it. Because their minds are wired for logic and consistency, they may view minor human flaws in others as systemic errors or red flags. They tend to have extremely high standards for their partners and friends, searching for a level of intellectual compatibility that is rare to find.
In many cases, the highly intelligent person will choose to retreat into self-imposed isolation. They learn to stay quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they have realized that explaining their internal world to others often leads to being misunderstood or labeled as arrogant. They are constantly caught between their biological need for human connection and their psychological need for intellectual depth, a balance that many never truly master.
The key to mastering such a mind is not to dampen the intelligence, but to develop a specific manual for its operation. Highly intelligent individuals must recognize that their brain is a high-performance engine that requires high-quality fuel and intentional maintenance. Without a clear direction, this engine will simply idle and overheat, leading to the burnout and overthinking that many of them know too well.
The first step in their psychological management is learning to differentiate between useful processing and repetitive noise. They must practice what psychologists call cognitive diffusion, the ability to observe a thought without being consumed by it. Instead of trying to stop the thinking process, they should learn to direct it toward creative output or complex problem solving, where its depth is an asset, not a liability.
Furthermore, these individuals must embrace the concept of imperfect action. Because their minds can see every possible failure, they are prone to the paralysis of perfectionism. They need to understand that in the real world, a flawed project that exists is infinitely more valuable than a perfect one that remains a fantasy. By lowering their expectations for the first draft of life, they allow themselves the freedom to experiment and grow through feedback.
Ultimately, high intelligence is what Kazimierz Dabrowski called a tragic gift, only if it remains unchanneled. When these people stop viewing their sensitivity as a weakness and start seeing it as a heightened awareness, everything changes. They are the ones capable of seeing the world not as it is, but as it could be. By aligning their deep need for meaning with consistent daily action, they transform from being prisoners of their own minds into the architects of the future. They don't just process reality, they eventually learn to master it.